What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here. Delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. And you can head over there and sign up for my newsletter to get some free comics. And we all know you love comics, so go do that. All right, I recorded Volume 3 as a review, and I forgot that I didn't do Volume 2. And this will probably go up first, so you don't even need to know that that's the case. But this is not as fresh in my memory because I read this a couple weeks ago, and I've already read Volume 3, which follows up on a lot of this stuff. This is Ditko's 32 series, and what happened is in the late 2000s, Steve Ditko made his own comics, 32 pages, and they came out pretty regularly. And these are 5 issues in here, which contains Ditko Presents through Act 5. So after Ditko Presents, he started naming them Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, etc. And then started getting clever with the numbering later on, which we'll get to when we get there. There's a 5-volume series that collects these, and 5 issues each. Pretty nice. They're oversized. I enjoy it. And it just gets right into Ditko art. So the beginning introduces a character called the Madman, and this is a very fun storyline where we get into this guy who is, I guess, thought of as crazy, but he's basically out on his own, and he's gonna go take some people down. Now, a lot of these stories continue, and this does continue in this volume. So all the stories in the volume finish, but they do continue because these are single issues and they're presented in the full issue form, and then you go to the next one where it continues. Whoops. You may be too scared to continue this one. He did come up with a very creepy-looking character here. This next character is, and this is the cool part, is Ditko's, in this volume, in particular, Volume 2, is creating a lot of new characters. He's just going one after the other, just rattling off new ones. We got the Madman there. We got the exclamation point question, which I'm sure is a reference to the question at some point. And there's a bunch of frustrated mob bosses as this guy in here, which is a really cool looking design, goes and takes them down. There's not a lot of background to it, but basically he takes all their stolen goodies, returns them, and fights them. So it's a very fun and very just straightforward old school character. Now this may be the most interesting out of all of them, Miss Eerie, and I'm sure this is a reference to Eerie Comics, which is the old Creepy and Eerie, which Steve Ditko did some wonderful work for. If you have not gotten the hardcover of the Ditko Creepy and Eerie stuff that is published by Dark Horse, highly, highly recommend that. But Miss Eerie is, she wears one of these like Indiana Jonesy adventure hats, and this is actually a mask where she's got a creepy face, and even though the mask kind of moves, I don't know how that works. But she goes and she beats up bad guys basically. Lots of quizzling bad guys, and very, very fun stuff. Now, what I noticed, like comparing this to Ditko's other later work, which, you know, I mean, later's relative, but when you compare it to Mr. A or Static or the Mocker from, I'd say, a couple decades before, there's a lot more lecturing going on by Ditko within the comics. And here he seems to dial it back a little bit. You definitely have, like, a very clear what's good, what's evil. And it's usually mobsters or thieves or people doing things like that, and the hero just finding them and just kicking the crap out of them. Pretty simple stuff, but you know, it seems like he's having a little bit more fun than before. This is a fun one. This is a protest against Ditko because they want him to do something else. He wants to do what he wants because he's a real artist. The Madman returns in this issue here, and he ends up bringing down the scared crime bosses. And then we get an introduction of the Cape. And the Cape continues into the next volume with several, and this is probably my favorite of the creations. The Cape sucks people into it, into a world, and every time. And it kind of delivers what they're due, depending on what kind of equivocator or bad person they are. They come out and they are changed in a negative way. So it's very fun right here. This one's a crime story, and a crime story, which was actually continued in the last issue, we must have missed it, is interesting. We watch a mob boss's son kind of go off the rails and have a problem, and in this one, it's very different than all the others. And the mob boss and the wife argue at the end here, and a very interesting way he did this thing. You end it, so you get to determine what happens in your own mind there. It's kind of obvious where Ditko is going with it. But there's that. And then we get a couple philosophy drawings, which are fun too. And he gets into his new concept, the Gray Negotiator. And the Gray Negotiator is an equivocator who goes around and he can't handle people being good. And he wants them to, be moderate. I mean, why would you be fully good when you could be moderately good and moderately bad? Because everything in moderation. There are no absolutes. And he runs around and he just kind of cries. It's pretty fun. So, a couple more philosophy pieces, which are fun. And then we get a drawing of the hero, which we'll see a little bit more of shortly. I really like the art on this character. Really cool looking. Into Act 3 now. All of Ditko's stuff seems to take place in the 1930s or 1940s. He really likes the aesthetic of that era. And I think he just wants to return comics to the golden age. And so it's partially a commentary by using the setting, and it's partially just an appeal to aesthetics. And so we get some more Miss Eerie. We get some equivocating guys again. You always tell when there's something wrong or bad going on in these Ditko comics because he uses squiggly lines to show corruption. We see straight lines and all that on people who are not corrupt. And we have this kind of shaded gray in the middle, right? Which is, it looks just as corrupt. It's corrupt in a lot of ways, even though it's slightly different. So, very nice way that he does that stylistically. So you very much know what's going on just from the art. And that is just a testament to his craft right there. I love this. This is a scathing piece of fan man and fan boy. And they just whine about comic books. Because that's what they do. Another cape one. This is my favorite cape story of all of them. These are two people who are arguing and fighting, and they get sucked into this fantasy world where they actually have to survive and deal with that. So it's pretty good. Couple quick comics in here which are fun. And then we introduce a new character again called the Outline. And the Outline just talks in the criminals' ears and kind of pushes them to make mistakes. And so they eventually end up in jail and things like that. And we get to see his rational man in the world, in the sea of irrationality. Very fun stuff. There's lots of that in here. Act 4, we get a return of our explanation question. We get more cape action, and this is a continuance from the last one. Get this girl with her big club fighting this cat saber-tooth thing. That's a very cool design right there. And more outline. And then we get a bunch of this corrupt world single drawings to kind of round this out right here. Very cool. So really, this piece here really says it all on the Ditko philosophy level. Same with this. The rational man really is the hero. All right. We get some Return of the Madman here. I'd say out of all of these, the Madman's kind of my least favorite concept. He's a very different looking guy, but I don't know, I just identify with the other ones a little better. More Gray Negotiator. And this last one, we get a robbery going on. There's always a robbery going on in these. And then some more outline, I guess, to close out the book. So you get some fun stuff. And that's about it. So this is volume 2. There's 5 of these, so I'll be going over all of them as they go in. The first volume really had a few setups, which were kind of interesting. And had that big essay at the beginning. You get a lot of the hero sketches in that first volume. This one really introduced some cool new characters who are pretty fun. And you get some cool stories in here as well. So far, I've read volumes 1 through 3. This is probably my favorite volume. So you don't need there's no continuity or anything like that. This isn't like a modern comic or anything, so you really don't need to buy volume 1 to enjoy it. So if you were just going to check these 32 series out and want to see if you like it first, I recommend this one first. I think it has the best breadth of comics out of at least the first 3 that I've read. I've not read 4 and 5 as of yet. This is great stuff. I read this in a quick sitting. 9 out of 10. Very fun. I love watching heroes who are heroes do the right thing, villains who are villains do the wrong thing. I love that clear cut, and I think comics needs more of it. So very happy to have this out and glad that this was published. Hit that like and subscribe button. I will talk to you guys later. See ya.